keep on thinking about how, like, when I used to teach middle school science, I used to always tell my students, and I didn't, I heard this from someone else, that we are nature. We all know this, right? Like, there is no disconnection. But now that we're these sort of super smart, primates, we're blocking ourselves, and now we're talking to each other on Zoom. We can't even go outside. We can't hug each other. It's crazy now. So, I mean, I think like we are all one, and from literally the carbon in the air that then gets reformed into solid trees, and the cambium of the tree, that's what it's all about. So, that's just, I could talk forever, but that's just one thing that comes to mind.
Why do you think we see ourselves as different from nature? Do you think that's like a flaw in evolution?
Oh, actually, I watched a really good Explain, the series on Netflix that was talking about exactly that, about how we think that we're different from animals, and there was all these studies about cognitive abilities in animals and relationships and social hierarchies and everything. And I think it's just because this is a very bad answer, but because we're very conceited and we think that we're so much smarter than everybody else. But animals have a lot of the capacities that we think that make us above everyone else, and I think nature has those capacities too. I mean, when we were doing those videos about with our partners, we were talking about the mycelial networks, but within trees, like there's a consciousness and an awareness in nature as well. So I think that we're wrong in thinking that we're any different from them.
Is it a benefit or an advantage to nature for us to think that we're separate from it?
Well, we don't respect it enough if we think we're separate from it.
Wouldn't it also give us the ability to recognize when there's a problem and also like move towards a solution? Whereas if we think we're one with it, then any sort of reaction or any sort of feedback we get from nature, we think is also, is also right. So we have the ability to question whether or not what we're doing is good or bad for nature.
We should also look at the fact that we look at like animals who right now are immune to what's going on with COVID, and we are the ones who are susceptible. So doesn't that sort of say something?
That's a great point. I think, Joe, that's like that we can do ecological reconciliation. So that's the story of like how we brought pigs to an island, and because of that, the pigs started eating everything and it was a huge problem. So then we had to cull the pigs. I feel like the fact that we think we're separate in the beginning, we are still causing a problem, but then we could fix it. But maybe we wouldn't have caused the problems in the first place because of our intelligence.
I think our intelligence is like a blessing and a curse. It's, yeah.
I love the quote by Douglas Adams. I just got it up. Man's always assumed he is more intelligent than dolphins because he's achieved so much. Whilst all dolphins ever do is muck about in the water having a good time. But conversely, dolphins always believed they were more intelligent than man for precisely the same reasons.
Dolphins communicate. They communicate and we communicate, and that's a huge, huge, huge part of our being. And that's a lot of the problem that's going on with COVID right now, is the lack of communication and the miscommunication from different societies and different worldviews and different news and different politics. Dolphins communicate, and so do we. That's a problem. They communicate well.
I feel like that quote reminded me of The Simpsons, when like the dolphins come out and they take over. Episode.
Oh yeah, that was a great episode.
I don't think we seem to have the capability of fully appreciating different kinds of intelligences. And I think it's all rooted in ego, really.
I would agree with you on that, because we look at elephants who have such a nurturing sense for their herd and for their families and their young, and such great memories, and yet I just think there's a lot we could learn from them and from many other animals.
Yeah, I think even within humans, we don't value different types of intelligence. Like we love memory, logic-based intelligence. Like somebody who is incredible at math is really smart. but that person may not
Emotional,
have
yeah.
any emotional intelligence. And we don't kind of respect emotional intelligence or other forms of intelligence.
That's very true.
I agree, yeah.
Okay.
just gonna say that I think Earth Day is a really good indicator of how much popular support there is for the environment, despite like the political gridlock that we often see in pretty much most governments. And yeah, I don't know, it's a testament to the dissonance between what people are really about and what, you know, we're dealing with in terms of where our authorities are at. So it's a good reminder that we still have a lot of momentum on our side.
Right, and the ultimate authority is, you know, nature, right? The force of nature. You hear that phrase. One of my favorite people I watch online is Matt Powers. He's a permaculture genius guy, and he talks about the force of nature. Like, nature is a force, and we're seeing it right now because humans, and maybe in large part, are sort of monocropped, right? There's a lack of genetic diversity because we're not interacting with the environment, maybe as much as we used to, being exposed to various viruses. So we're so similar to each other, and we have such similar immune systems, maybe.
You know, it's funny. I've been like quite okay with quarantine up until today. And I think it's because I got all of those reminders from Facebook about where I was last year on this day on top of a mountain with all you guys, well, half of you, but
Yeah.
and that was such an awesome day. We were with all our business partners, all our tree ambassadors, and like just really the best day, planting trees, being together for one cause. And that has made me feel really lonely today. So
Yeah, today's the first day I really felt it. But that brings me nicely to the next question. So the next one's just for the veterans who have been here for 12 months or more. What's changed at One Tree Planted in the past 12 months? Like how has the organization grown?
I don't have any other words apart from it's boomed. Like, it's just exploded. I came in actually exactly a year ago. Like, I think Earth Day, I was my 1 month in.
You were like,
And
what,
we were like,
sixth person in?
yeah. And, yeah, and I never would have thought next year I would have been one of the, you just put me in the veterans category. I would have been very surprised to
It's
hear that.
exactly like tree planting, vets and rookies.
You're
Yeah.
eyeballing it.
I think we've been able to do an exponential amount of amazing work. I think when I first started, we had a lot of people asking us for projects, and we had to count our pennies in a way of, you know, okay, we can't do more than 10,000 trees here. We've already committed to one project. And now I'm saying yes to projects that are 100,000 trees, and there's a few of them in one country. And that's really crazy because I think we're able to expand our reach and help so many more organizations than where we were last year, which I think is really incredible.
Yeah, because you're like in the thick of it as well. So like, what does it mean to you on a personal level to like see the number of trees that are going through and actually going into the ground through our partners?
I can't believe it sometimes, and especially where we're reaching. Like today, I had a call with another indigenous group in the Amazon in Peru, and I never thought that I'd be having these amazing conversations with these. They're like heroes of nature that are devote their lives to protecting one of the most endangered areas in the world that's getting encroached on, like our lungs of the planet, and we're able to help those frontline kind of warriors, I would say. And I just find it like I have no words. I'm humbled.
Steph?
yeah, so much. I've been here 2 years and a half almost, like fourth employee in, or third employee maybe. And I really never thought that we were going to get bigger than like 10 people. I thought like we would always stay just like this like little crew.
I think that's because Matt used to say that. He's like, yeah, once we have like one person in every department, it just...
It's like, we're fine, yeah. But what was really crazy was we were going through a project flow with the new project managers, and you know, Alain and Thomas are forestry experts, and we were going through this flow that Beth made a long time ago, and it was saying Christina does this, Joe does this, but now we're saying content team, operations team, we have teams now. And like, I remember that was 2 days ago or yesterday, and I was like, whoa, we actually have teams. It's not
and even Gabby making that chart of like a flow of people, and like no one could really figure it out in the greatest way, because you're like, we're all working together. How are we doing this? And I mean, Gabby, you're very artistic and really visual, and it's awesome for all of us to see that. But it was great to see just a great way of projects flowing through people.
It's like you're a startup, and then one day you're not, and then you realize that you're this kind of big organization, and like for you, Steph, you're like third person in or something. So
Yeah,
it's weird to kind of see that transition, and just you realize that, oh yeah, we've grown, like we've 10x'd in just over a year.
Yeah, and like now I'm kind of doing like one continent, where when it was like Diana or Beth being like, you were doing, like for you, Diana, you were the business like account manager, marketing, social, like one person was doing five or more different jobs. I remember that post you made that was really sweet about me and Beth, and you were like, we're all doing like 5 different jobs at the same time. But yeah.
Well, I'll chime in here, Ben, because I had a call today with Glenn for a legal firm in Colorado. Actually, they're the largest legal firm for nonprofits. So they do the legal work for the Nature Conservancy, American Red Cross, and she was just listing the organizations. And she used to be on the board of directors for the National Wildlife Federation, and she knows a lot about tree planting organizations. She's like, I can't believe how much your charity's grown, and how have you guys grown that much faster than these other tree planting organizations? So she asked, what's the secret sauce? And I said to her, you know, corporate culture has been so important to me, just having a really close team. Everybody chips in, you know, where and when needed. And then also keeping it super simple, you know, not like overwhelming you with too much information. What was the other thing? Because Glenn was asking me afterwards, you know, some of the points. But like we always said, keep it simple, you know, everybody helps out when needed. So yeah, crazy. That 5.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like for you,
number 6, Joe, huh?
For you had like 3 years just doing it on your own pretty much. And then Diana came in, she was helping you out. And then like, when was that, Diana? 3 years ago now?
3 years ago, I was with Dave on Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, we're at the edge, about to go for like jumping through whatever off cliff diving or something we were doing. Diana called me. She's like, it's my birthday. I'm setting up a forest fundraiser, and how can I do this and that? So I was at the edge. Remember we had that picture, Dave, in Costa Rica?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I do some consulting and I could help you out. I do a couple of blogs. I'm like, sure. So Diana kind of came in the first of all the people here, but the first official full-time hire was Beth, and Stephanie was interviewing at the same time, but I picked Beth. So then Stephanie called me.
Beth was only in for like a week or 2. And then she told me, she's like, I'm interviewing people. I don't even know what I'm doing yet.
Because I was busy doing some calls. I said to Beth, go upstairs and talk to some person who's trying to get a job. So I sent Beth upstairs to talk to Stephanie. So, you know, obviously I would have liked Stephanie, but I said I don't have the money. I just have enough money for one person salary. So the thing that I really liked about Stephanie is she said, I found you the money to pay me. Here's this grant. You need to apply. I asked all the questions that were in American charity. I'm like, all right, this person is persistent and found the money. So good for her. And like Stephanie was so timid, you know, and was uncomfortable on the phone. It's crazy how much she like takes control and is negotiating the cost of trees with the people.
What's it been like, Matt?
She's
You were
still
on your
squeezing
own.
pennies.
I also think that it's kind of interesting that how your team has come together kind of organically, which you've got such strong talent that have all come together kind of in a very organic, natural way. So again, I think that's very, I think it says something.
And I'd like to add on that I think, Matt, you're very loyal, which I think is really awesome. Like having Beth that we've all known, and then Beth comes back, and then people are able to kind of move around because they're great workers. And I don't know, staying loyal in that way has made us all feel like we're part of something.
sense of security for sure.
I remember when Sophia applied, and I was in Jamaica with my brother sitting at the Ligony Club, and I did a little Zoom call with her, and she was telling me about her background, and then I'm like, all right, you're hired.
Yeah, that's
You know?
true.
So what was it like, Matt, just kind of those first 3 years on your own? You've got a full-time job, you're racing around, you're trying to get this idea off the ground, you're trying to actually like do something to make an impact. People start coming in, and then fast forward to now, you've got like 30 people, you're doing millions in revenue, and you're really making an impact. And like, where do you go from there?
Well, I mean, from the beginning, when I always say it was me, myself, and I, with an idea, having a beer with a buddy, and I just said, oh, one tree planted, one checked out GoDaddy, and it was available. So I took it and then started looking and debating between Vermont or Colorado to register the charity. And I picked Vermont because I could drive over the border. And I didn't know what type of law firm do you start with. So I started Googling, and I found some guy, called him up, and I said, you know, can you register my charity? And the guy was fresh out of law school, you know, at one of those Vermont houses, that's the law firm. And I think he made every single mistake possible because he didn't know what he's doing. So he got registered as a private charity. We were supposed to be a public charity, and, you know, shoestringing this thing along. And then calling Tony in BC and everybody I could talk to. And Tony,
Tell me about that story.
yeah, saying like, who is this guy who wants to give me money? I'm like, I'm going to come fly out there and I'm going to meet you. So I met him and drove up to like wherever it was, 100 Mile House, and met him and Mike Medill. And Mike Medill's telling Tony, like, this has got to be a scam. He's giving me $50,000 to plant some trees. But how much we've grown with British Columbia, and then like the perseverance and like bugging the Forest Service saying, I'm going to give you guys $1 million in like 3 years to finally get in there, you know, and then building the relationships with that. But then slowly, like with Beth and Stephanie and Diane, and, you know, just kind of, we've been, I think, conservative in our growth, you know. And I said, you know, I think we got lucky with the timing and everything like that. But the girl, you know, Cindy, who I was talking to at that law firm who manages nonprofits, says, you know, a lot of people have tried this, so, and haven't been as successful as you guys. So, you know, it's a team effort. We're all chiming in here. You know, Joe's stuff that he's doing, and Diana's on the marketing. So, like I said, we're all in this together.
I think it's also cool that despite our growth, our hyper growth, it still very much feels like we're a startup. It still feels like we're smaller and more tight knit. Like, despite when you think like, oh, there's 27 of us, it feels like we're a small group. And I love that when we have like our team meetings, everybody hears what everybody else is working on. And I think that really helps us stay connected, actually, because in so many other organizations, everything is siloed, and that creates inefficiencies and miscommunications. But it just feels like we're so much more unified. Like, we know what's coming up for customer service. We know what the project priorities are. And I think that helps us kind of maintain that small group, almost like a family feeling, even as we're scaling up and making a really huge impact.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess for the new people then, so probably here now, Thomas, maybe Megan as well, what's it like starting a job and not really meeting many of the people in the team? In Thomas's case, because of the lockdown, in Megan's case, because you haven't yet come up to see the rest of the team.
I guess maybe I'll jump in. It's a bit weird, definitely. But I think, I don't know, I think that a lot of people's characters do sort of shine through Zoom, oddly enough. I think I've gotten to know people and sort of how they operate and how they sort of express themselves and communicate decently well. So it's a whole process. But I think one of the things that I keep being introduced as this forestry expert, and Matt's really like trying to sort of get all excited about how great I am. But I think it's important, I think, for me to recognize how great you guys are as well. I think as I've been meeting the partners, I've just been so impressed with the quality of the work that's being done. Really consistently, you guys have done a really good job. I mean, you guys are sort of saying like, oh yeah, we need to fix our processes and improve everything, but you've done a really good job. I think that needs to be sort of recognized. I think you guys need to really own your accomplishments, and I really hope I can add to them, but I don't want to take the shine away from you guys at all.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take
Megan?
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I mean, on my end, I think because I've been working with Diana and Kaylee, who pretty much made me feel welcome and feel like I was part of this amazing team from the start, I already feel connected to all of you, and I can't wait to meet you all in person. And I feel so fortunate to be able to work with so many talented and passionate people that are like amazing at what they do. And I just am excited to see what the future has in store as we continue to grow and continue to make our impact. And yeah, I'm still like kicking myself, like, wow, I'm really getting paid to like do what I'm passionate about, and I'm able to like work with all these awesome people and be part of something awesome. So
We'll take
it's
that as
been
well.
great on my end.
Okay.
Hey, coming from the Canadians to something so big and such a big brand to come to something like this, what's that? Must be a big difference from there.
Yeah, a lot of the points that have already been touched upon definitely registered with me. The idea of the very regular meetings where everyone is made aware of what everyone is doing. In larger organizations, or the only one that I really knew, the Canadians, for about 15 years, a couple hundred people work there. And so if there aren't very clear and open lines of communication, you could find yourself not really knowing what the majority of the rest of the organization is doing. And so it's been refreshing, honestly, to be in an environment where those lines of communication are so wide open, and I still have a lot to learn and wrap my head around all the different processes and what the workflow is actually like. But the fact that in theory, in time, everyone should be able to know what everyone else is doing and really have a good understanding of how the business works, that's wonderful. And in my experience, as I said, in the Canadians, it wasn't always that way. And yeah, it's been refreshing. And I'd say in the exposure that I've had of the operation so far, very, very impressive with how talented and the self-starters within the group and how open and welcoming everyone's been. I think you've put together quite the team, Matt, and it's impressive that they've gotten so good so quickly, so young. But yeah, it's wonderful to be a part of the team.
Cool.
So
I have a meeting, guys, so I'm gonna drop off. Bye.
Right. So something we've started seeing a lot more of in the past 12 months has been handwritten mail coming into the customer care team. So these always get shared around with the team. Why do you guys want to share these with the team, and what does it mean when you check your emails or when we get a piece of mail and it's a handwritten piece of mail from like a young person who's trying to make that impact and trying to get involved in helping the environment?
I think we just share it to fill up your inbox.
For you to pose a very, very good comment that we all need to question.
No, really though.
No, I think it's nice to share. We get mail that comes in that, I guess the point is, like, you don't see the mail. And so to share that information of maybe a child who has put their hard-earned money or has put the effort into a fundraising effort, into planting a few trees, and or an elderly person who is recognizing somebody who's passed away and puts in $5, but he's doing it like it's coming from the heart. And that's kind of moving to me, that somebody.
Yeah, I think it's a big motivator. The fact that somebody put the effort to write us a letter and talk about how like we changed them or inspired them, or they saved their allowance for 5 weeks to send us $40, let's just say, it makes our job like, oh my God, this is amazing what we're doing, because we're having an impact all over the world to these different people.
It's a testament to like the community that's been built up around tree planting in general and the environment in general. You know, it's not just us. I mean, I think we just have a lucky platform in which people feel like they can reach out to us. I'm sure people feel like they can reach out to other charities as well, but I think it is a testament to say that these young people are already engaged with the idea of helping out the environment, and they see someone that they can directly connect with and want to say something and say thanks and you know, and feel good about that interaction that they're having. I think that's a new world that we've sort of entered, in that charities are people now, and people want to have that interaction with them and get to know where their money's going.
How is something like that different to like a business partner? And a business partner has the capacity to donate a lot of money, but what's different about these kind of like really personalized donations that we get from individuals?
I'll chime in there. I get
from the heart.
Yeah, it definitely comes from the heart. I mean, I get emails sometimes from, you know, grade 1 classrooms who have worked like a month to, you know, raise enough money to plant like 35 trees. And I think we act as a really good example for them of why it's important. And that's also important. And it's not just, you know, offsetting emissions for companies. It's setting an example for like the kids too. And so when I get those emails, I agree that it is quite moving. And I think we act as a really good example for these kids.
Yeah,
and I have
continue.
I have
go ahead, Leslie.
Is that when I'm writing thank you notes to particularly elderly people, and you can see it in their letters, which are quite, you know, you can tell they're elderly by their handwriting. A bit sketchy. But anyway, the point is that they've taken the time to write a letter and make a donation in honor of somebody they've really loved. And that actually, when I'm writing the thank you notes, that actually, I'm a very emotional person, so it brings me very close to tears, because I think it's very special what they're doing. I mean, other people, you could send flowers, you could do whatever, but this is what they're choosing to do to honor that person, but also make a difference in the world. And I think it's very moving.
Yeah, and like the goal of our charity is to be like, we're an environmental charity. Our goal is to have an environmental impact, but it's nice to see the kind of impact that we have on people, the human impact we have as well.
Yeah, I think touching on also what Caitlin said about setting an example, I think that people want to feel like they can make a difference, especially right now with feeling a lot of chaos and kind of, you know, we can't beat this, you know, the global warming, you know, climate change, but you know that we can't beat what's happening, and showing that a difference can be made when you come together, even if you can only put in a little bit. Like for those classrooms, it shows everybody maybe put in $1, but all together this classroom has now planted 35 trees. It's much more impactful to see directly how one little piece of a puzzle can come together and make a masterpiece kind of thing. But I think that's also what's inspiring. And trees are also, for people, when you're planting for people who have passed away, trees are also a symbol of life, of rebirth, growth. So it has a lot of powerful messaging behind there too. And I think empowering people is the most.
But it's also about people taking initiative, and that goes back to Matt starting this whole organization, and also a student who's trying to fundraise. It's one person takes the initiative to do something good, and then you see how it grows. And with our organization, we can see how it's grown. And with the child who started a fundraiser, that's one person starting it, and then it's grown. And
what's the impact of these kind of smaller individual donations when we do kind of pool them together and put all these pieces of the puzzle together? What's the impact? What can we actually do with those trees?
I think one thing to point out is that, like, $1 for some person, for somebody, some individual, can be magnitudes larger of an impact simply because it's such a larger percentage, let's say, of their wealth, right? Like $1 might be an enormous sacrifice for someone, but you know, that $1 that plants that tree and can become so many other things for so many other people is really important. And it's amazing that we have all these business partners who want to get involved and they can give hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the percentage of that compared to the wealth of, you know, a 5-year-old kid who wants to give in $10, I mean, that's their entire value, right? That's their entire piggy bank that they had to smash just to plant 10 trees. I think that's a really interesting that's a really gripping sacrifice that people are making to put a little bit of an improvement on the planet.
I guess what more do you think we could do to kind of like show appreciation to those people that are like, how can we improve and how can we give more back to those people that are making those kind of sacrifices from their own wealth? Like, what could we do?
Get their hands dirty.
Yeah, I don't know.
Get their hands dirty. Get them to an event. Get them to plant trees. Get them to come over. Get them to a conference. Get them to hear people talk when we can. Do all those
things.
things.
Brings me very near to the next question, which was going to be how important is getting people out to our events, whether it's Earth Day or Plant a Tree Day, or if we run like special events for people, how important are they in the grand scheme of things? Why are they important?
It's so important. People feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, and it's a memory that stays with them. It's much more tangible to remember the afternoon you went out planting than the 2 minutes it took you to make a transaction. Mm-hmm. So that it sticks with you and you feel like you're part of something bigger, I think.
That's it. Yeah. And you know, it's great to make a donation. That's awesome. But I see doing the events, most of the people that reach out, they just want to connect with the cause. And I think going out and doing that work is really what inspires people to care about the environment and continue doing that kind of thing.
And I think everyone has such lives. Sorry. Well, I think everyone's just so busy that, like, you know, people on a daily basis, no one's going to think to go and get a tree and plant it, even though they can. They're not going to think. So having these events set up for people, give that people the opportunity to schedule that, commit to that, and then get out in nature and do it. And I think it's important for them to be able to, you know, can reconnect with nature every so often, because everyone's always so busy that, you know, sometimes we kind of forget that it's important to get outside and to connect with our roots.
And the people that we have met, or the people that anyone can chime in here, the people who you've met on these planting events, whether it's business partners or children or like older people, whoever it is, what kind of things have they communicated, what they take from the day, or like how valuable it is to them? Like, what do they say?
You know, Ben, it might be valuable to reach out and interview and record some of these individuals to hear their story and why they did it and how it makes them feel. Like it might be valuable.
Ben, when we were in Colorado, some of those people who came out like drove 2 hours to get to 4 Mile, and you know, Stephanie and I have heard so many conversations that we've had in Colorado where people are like looking forward to that yearly event to come out and they bring their kids, or like we've seen companies come out, you know, and yeah, you just hear so many stories far and wide. And that, you know, whether it's a crappy day, weather-wise, whatever, it's a great experience.
Well, I can definitely chime in planting trees, not with One Tree Planted, but in general, and it's incredibly rewarding. And whether it's a couple hundred, a couple trees, or a couple thousand a day, it's incredibly rewarding to come back to people that have done the same thing that you have done, and to just be around a fire and drink some beers and know that you are still all humans and you're just doing the same thing every day, but you've planted trees all day.
So yeah, I want you guys to bombard Taviana with questions while I get a wine top up.
Well, I actually just left to get one.
Well, Stephanie and Gabby, I think, and when I look at the screen here, the only people that were at last year's, oh, Joe too, you were there at the tree planting event last year. I don't know, what were some of the highlights that you can tell people here?
I just the energy that everyone was so excited to be part of this, and anybody you crossed and they saw your t-shirts, they were just almost thanking you, being like, this is amazing, like thanks for doing this, we're so happy. And I just got a really big sense of excitement. I don't have a great one person quote, but everyone was just so excited to be part of something, and that's a really purely positive and, you know, cool experience.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was just purely positive. I mean, last year we had good weather. I mean, it was a bit of a hike to get up the hill and then get back down the hill to find a spot to plant. And as more and more people were coming and planting, then you had to go further and further and further. But nobody complained, right? Nobody said like, oh God, I got to walk another, half a kilometer to get to that spot where I'm going to plant that tree. But
well, actual tree planting, let me tell you. It's at least 10K before you actually get to plant
a tree. Yeah. Yeah, so nobody had any problems with, putting in the work and doing it. So it was everyone putting in their little bit of their sweat equity into the event.
Has anyone else been getting notifications about the flight to Oregon?
Yeah, it's in all of our calendars.
Oh, I deleted it.
Sad reminder.
I realized that I just muted myself and I kept on trying to say something, and then I was like, everyone's interrupting me. But I realized I've been muted. So I just want to say something quickly about last year. There was a lot of logistics involved with that. Matt knows. It was stressful, like trying to get 500 people out and make sure that we even had shuttle buses, this huge thing. And at the beginning of the day, we had to set up the tent and have the food and the shirts and the shovels, everything prepped, and the seedlings and the dirt, more and more and more. And I remember halfway through the day, I was like, hey, I really want to go plant now and not just like welcome everyone, because like I wanted to plant on my own as well. But so me, Joe, and Gabby planted a few trees, and we planted one tree and we named him Logopher, and that was really special. We enjoyed that, and that's one of the notifications that I got from Facebook today, so that's why I remember it. But I remember when the planting day was done and we planted all the seedlings, like I think it was 5,000 trees that we planted. It was like this euphoric feeling. Of course, I also had canteen wine as well, so that probably added to the
that was good wine.
But there's a clip in your video, Ben, of you filming us, and
you're like that.
Oh,
yeah.
fun! Like it was just like there's this like wishing over feeling of feeling so elated that
you probably had sunstroke, and then you had a sip of wine and it tipped you over the edge.
It could have been that.
A little bit of altitude
I do want to
sickness
chime in
too.
here on that note.
Community.
That's how every day of tree planting in massive amounts feels like.
Yeah.
You're elated by sunstroke and bugs and a bunch of shit everywhere that like you just come back and you're like, that was awesome. So I get that. I wasn't there. I wish I was.
What about Stephanie 2 years ago when the day we were all supposed to plant and there was a foot of snow and we had to cancel it, and we had to like all get together, me, you and Diana and Beth, and email as many people and saying, okay, it's canceled and we're pushing it to tomorrow.
Why would you cancel that? You can still
it was a foot of snow. Like you couldn't
It was
plant.
a blizzard.
Professional stuff.
A blizzard.
Can be done.
No, what? A lot of people.
I'm just joking, Matt.
That though, which was really cool. Like we still had a really great turnout, even though we had to postpone it. So that was really cool, actually.
Yeah. So like the things, how we can react, and everybody just chips in, and we turn that around.
Yeah.
And like the Facebook thing, how in 3 days we had to like find all that stuff and make 70 phone calls and all that stuff and turn that thing around. So that's what's really cool, how we can like be that fast.
We're very agile.
Gabby.
What I say is every week is a different week here, right? There's no like, oh, this is the same thing over and over. That's what makes it fun.
True.
Question for the projects people. What's your favorite new project that's come up in the past year since last Earth Day?
Oh gosh.
That's for Gabby.
I definitely, everyone knows that I have a few sweet spot projects. So one of them would be Gloria's project in Ecuador, which everybody's tired of me talking about. I love that one.
Gone through now.
Sorry?
No,
Has that gone
never.
through?
Yeah, so well, they're not planting right now because of COVID and stuff, but yeah, they're just amazing. It's just, again, it's who you're able to work with.
Who is Gloria?
Gloria Ushigua is Ecuadorian native First Nations. Well, I guess it's more native woman who leads an association for native Sapara women to empower them to economically, also socially. And she is one of the she's a very big activist. So she's pretty well known for being like a frontline defender of the rights of the Amazon and defending it, not only the Amazon itself, but its people and communities that live there and live off the land. So she's marched in huge things. She's also really gotten a lot of death threats from so she won a big lawsuit against a Chinese oil company that was trying to take part of the territory that was Sapara Indigenous territory. And she's gotten a lot of death threats for that because she stopped a lot of big companies from coming in and exploiting the land. And her sister-in-law actually got killed because she was mistaken for Gloria. So she's really like the person that I can name that's the most front line, putting her life on the line basically to defend nature and defend her community. And the fact that we're able to help not only plant in an area that she's protecting, but also work with the Women's Association there to empower the Indigenous women in that area is, I think, one of the coolest projects that we have. Yeah, I could go on and tell you about a bunch of other projects, but that's my favorite. I also love the Philippines one because it helps with those cute little animals, the Philippine tarsier and the Philippine eagle. I love those guys.
Everybody loves the tarsier.
Also, Beth isn't on the call, but Australia was a big one. And Australia was an incredibly massive, beautifully well done project that I think Diana's not here either, but
yeah. Well, did we see the link that Beth shared today of the article that was put out saying that One Tree Planted is funding the million trees for the bushfires over the next 5 years? I think that's incredible that we're part of such a great response. So kudos to Beth for that.
There's so many cool stories. And like every project has its own kind of like set of interests and set of benefits, and it's definitely something Matt said since I started was just, there's so many cool stories to tell. It's just getting around to telling all of them.
Yeah. Also, just it's not only nature stories, and I think that's one thing that we do really well is like telling the stories that aren't just planting trees. Like there's so many other knock-on effects and direct impacts, right? And it's not just, oh, one day this tree is going to capture carbon. It's like everything that can happen from the moment you send that dollar in to the moment that tree is planted. There's so many little impacts that happen along the way. It's really neat.
Absolutely. Like, sorry to ramble on about projects, but the partner, the Anganza community we work with in Kenya, which is led by Edwin, one of our favorites, on one of his videos, he's explaining how them planting in a certain area helped to get the water come back to this river that was no longer this little creek, small river that was no longer, it was dried out. It wasn't giving any more water. And then they planted trees, the water came back, and that provides fresh drinking water for the community. So it's just, that's one of the effects that, like you're talking about, Joe.
Yeah, but we also can't forget the Orca project because I know we've talked about it a lot, but it still it's incredible and it's ongoing. It's not done yet. So
Joe, Alex, and I just heard how complicated that project really is. I won't go into all of that, but we had a long call yesterday with Patagonia, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, I think we caught him on I don't know, maybe not the best day, but it was that's one of my favorite videos to share.
A lot of stuff that I just didn't know about. I mean, I'm sure Ben knows the most because he was out there for 2 weeks and heard about all the stakeholders that are involved to get that stuff done. But yeah.
So I guess you really have to kind of simplify the message because unless you're an ecologist and an expert and you've spent your whole life not only studying ecology, but the ecology of that particular region of the world, you're not going to understand 80% of what's said. So you really have to kind of simplify the message down and make it digestible. Which
tell the team here how you got involved with One Tree Planted.
Well, I set up my company, and I wanted to plant trees to offset my travel or offset whenever I like flew somewhere for a shoot. So I emailed, I found an email address, and I was like, hey, I want to plant trees for my business. Within like 10 seconds, my phone's ringing. It's Matt. He's like, hey, I got a shoot. It's about like an hour away from where you are. Do you want to come and do it? So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. It was about a week later. Yeah, went out, did the shoot.
You said, hey, I'll do the photo shoot for you for free just to show you my work. So I'm like, all right, can't pass up on that. Got to Toronto. Ben met me for a beer. We talked. Next day we went to Peterborough, which was an old like landfill that they were like retrofitting.
Mine.
Yeah. Pardon?
It was like a gravel pit, wasn't it?
Yeah, a gravel pit that over 10 years they were turning into a forest with like Boy Scouts and everything. And then the next week I was flying to BC, and he also had a drone and everything. So I said, look, do a good job on this, and then I'll bring you out to BC and get lots of photos. So he's like, sure.
Yeah.
Like
within a week of messaging him, I was in BC.
And this comes back to me
people.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it comes back to me saying that Matt was very loyal because you've chosen some really great people.
Well, yeah. So Matt told Beth to get a vibe for me, and since she got a good vibe, he was like, okay, great, sounds good. And I also remember, Ben, one time we were having beers and you were like, how did Matt hire everyone? All of us are like best friends.
This was last
That's what I was gonna say.
Possible.
How is it
how did he do that? And I was like, I don't know.
But your response was because Matt hired Beth, and then Beth hired you, and then you.
And then when I got hired, I went out with Steph, and Steph was like, "You're exactly like Beth." I was like, "Perfect, fun." This is all great. So
then, Ben,
it's because we're like, also involved in the recruitment of other people.
Yeah, except for you.
I also like the fact that Matt understands.
I don't know who you're pointing at. Steph.
Everybody has a learning curve, and because we're growing so quickly, and all of this is new, that he's understandable of the fact that it's a learning curve for everybody in every step of the way, because it's just like this.
The whole thing is a learning curve.
Yeah.
Every day is a learning curve.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is you look forward every day to going to work. Otherwise, it's not a job, right? Like you hate going in, but this is fun, right? Every day we wake up and we're doing so much cool stuff. So
I have to say, I wake up every morning and I go straight to the bank, no joke, and I look to see what came in. Because I'm
Matt loves that.
excited. Like I'm like, woo, money came in, or else I, turn to the bottle when it's not so hot.
You don't need to record for that.
Kind of jumping back to what we were saying about simplifying the message. In terms of marketing, Diana's not in here right now, but Megan, Ed, anybody else who kind of does anything to do with marketing and like how we communicate. How do you, like climate change and deforestation, these are all like really kind of negative things that are happening to the world. How do you communicate that in a positive way?
I have I've had theories about the fact that, we don't really, and when I say we, I mean like the environmental community in general, doesn't always emphasize like some of the economic mechanisms that would potentially drive the transition to energy, and how a lot of them are really beneficial to pretty much every industry and every sector and every part of like the population could benefit from them. And a lot of the political discussions that are going on are always people talking about the cost of climate action. And I think the reality is that there are ways to mitigate those costs, and I don't feel like they're being communicated really well. So that's something I'd love to explore, is like, how do you get better at, getting that message across that this is not going to cost us as much as dealing with the consequences of climate change will. So, and there are a lot of benefits to come from it. So that's like a positive side of it.
Less than
I'm going to chime in here because the last couple of videos we put out, you know, one by Ben and two by Ed recently have been phenomenal. Like everybody's like, oh my God, like, wow, that one you did, Ben, you know, just based on the circumstance. And I can't remember who it was, but like, how did you turn around an amazing video like that with the COVID-19? I mean, it was so good. And then Ed taking a difficult thing on, you know, the climate, and then the Earth Day video was really good too. You know, putting the music and all the right clips to really resonate. And it's inspiring, you know, you're almost like, wow, what an amazing video. But you got to get to the point quickly, you know, because I just think that a lot of this stuff, the information's important, but they turn it off or they're desensitized. So I think we're doing a great job, and the videos just keep getting better and better.
Especially Ed's, the last one he did was great, but the one before that, the carbon offsetting, like that's such a difficult thing to communicate. So yeah, like that's really phenomenal work to try and to achieve, like communicating that in a really digestible, approachable way.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that took me a while to figure.
Yeah, the process of carbon offsetting to describe is particularly laborious and boring. So to try and contextualize it through like an everyday person's eyes is a difficult thing.
Well, a lot of
you guys have all found a really good balance between providing the facts with also adding some sense of not emotion, but where you
edutainment.
You capture people's interest who want to keep watching to the end, and that obviously has to draw on more than just facts, and you guys are able to capture that. It's amazing.
Well, look, WRI this week asked Ben and us to do a video for them that they want to share, you know, because they said you guys are doing some amazing work. So, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for when they're asking us to do stuff for them? What's the word I'm looking for? Joe, chime in here.
Honor.
Well, yeah, it's an honor. I mean, an honor that we could do a project with the Jane Goodall Foundation or stuff with WRI.
Yeah, that's like a crazy development. Like you wouldn't have predicted that a year ago, last Earth Month.
No,
last Earth.
We're going to be 10 people. Ben's like, no, you're going to be 30.
Yeah, from day one, Matt's been like, you know, the revenue will scale, but we don't really need that many more people. Yes, we do. Yeah, Megan, chime in on that one. How do you kind of keep it positive in the face of so many big challenges?
Yeah, so I feel like there's been so much communication about kind of like dire consequences and situation with climate change, and I think that's important, but I think it's also important to give people solutions, give them something they can do about it, and also give them like little positive things that they can be like excited about and want to get involved in. So I don't want to sugarcoat the facts of what's going on, but I always try to think of ways to like frame it so that it's like, yeah, we have these issues, but here's what we can do about it, and here's these fun things that you can be part of. And I think that's probably part of why One Tree Planted has grown so quickly, is because it's this amazing positive thing that people from every walk of life can jump onto and be part of and feel like they're part of a solution instead of just a problem. So I think that's another important thing, is that it can be easy to just talk to the people, like write to the audience of people like yourself and write to what you know, but the more valuable thing is to kind of connect with the audience more and try to speak to them in language that they understand and can relate to, and kind of meet them on their own level and just make it more inclusive, because I think sometimes a lot of the communication that's been getting put out not intentionally, I don't think, can feel a little exclusive and like hard for the average person to relate to, which I think is part of the issue with people not, believing in climate change and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that the important thing on my end is just trying to like keep it at least a little bit positive, even when I'm writing about something very negative. Rather than scaring people, inspire them. That's what
You
I'm
guys
trying to
want
do.
to add anything?
I think it's about being action oriented, and that's the most important thing. Is just, yeah, there might be problems, there might be issues, but there's always something that can be done, and just focus on that aspect as opposed to focusing on what has happened and what we can't change. Just focus on things we can change, and we're not so far up the creek that we can't make a difference. So let's just keep plugging it away at those small changes that we can make, and the future will be better for it.
I have a question for Sophia, because Sophia hasn't said anything, and she came from a big agency. And now she's at One Tree Planted with these mega budgets, and now she's got a shoestring budget.
Well, I think it definitely makes a difference because it makes you appreciate, let's say, the advertising dollars you have and think more about where you're spending. Like conversations I have with Diana and you, it's really like you want to make the best of it, and also like you get to decide, like, do you want to prioritize awareness or conversions and all of that versus just like big budgets that they're tracked, but it's more like they don't care about the dollars. So yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Well, definitely, because at least you feel like you're making the most out of the money that you get, like the budget. So yeah. And also seeing like the return. So.
Who else has not said anything?
Jill.
Lauren.
Jill hasn't said anything.
Lauren.
Well, that's surprising.
Yeah, Jill.
I can't hear you over the phone.
Alex is trying to sneak under the radar as well.
I'm just so grateful to be working with you folks.
Let's start with Jill. What do we have? What question for Jill?
Jill. I haven't
Jill's
written any questions for you.
Jill came in and was like, I'm going to take care of all of you. That's the vibe I felt.
And she feels like all of our mamas.
Yeah.
We're like, we have something we have to say, we'll tell Jill and she'll take care of it. And
I'm
she'll
like,
tell
Jill, Matt hasn't signed this agreement. She's like, don't worry about it.
How do we get
signed?
Matt?
I
She'll
love
take
taking care of all of you.
Lauren hasn't said
Your
anything.
dog?
Going off right
My
now.
dog, I know.
He's getting possessive.
Barbara.
Everyone should put their dog on screen. There's so many dogs in
Oh
this
my God,
organization.
please do. I
I'm
would
really waiting for
love
an
that.
opportunity to do that.
My dog's
It's the annual Earth
Matt,
and
did
Dog
I see you had
Celebration.
a dog?
Yeah, no, he's not here right now. He's out. Yeah.
Well, out where?
They're out painting and at the park.
So how important are dogs to One Tree Planted?
So important. You said it.
I
in
would
the
say
intro.
huge.
Dogs are the reason we went planting last year.
I would say as a tree planter, there is at least 50-50 planters and dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah, I guess we're like 60 if we count the dogs.
Steph, I love your dog.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
Huge. Thomas, do you have a dog?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Woo,
I-
everybody has a dog.
Why didn't you tell us about your dog?
His name's Gia. I got him in Ethiopia.
Wow.
Was
He
he a
was-
stray dog?
Barn
No,
dogs.
he's a royal dog. He's descended from Haile Selassie's, the emperor of Ethiopia. He's descended from his dogs.
Why
What dog? You
True.
tell us you had a royal
And then
dog.
back
Like
to
all of us
Ben,
are plebe
other
dogs
questions
over here.
for you guys.
Do not tell
How
us
can you
that.
prove the lineage of your dog?
I can't prove it other than he's a Papillon from Ethiopia, and there's really no other evidence of Papillons in Ethiopia other than Haile Selassie. So it's an educated guess.
Wow.
Thomas, you should have told us that, but it's okay that you didn't.
I would say that Ben and Joe as people who are most important in asking questions, show us your dogs.
My guy's having a nap, but this is him and I before the meeting yesterday, or an interview I had yesterday.
Oh my god, I love his eyebrows. I still can't get over
And
them.
Joe has his dog right there.
Yeah, Kojak.
I'm gonna grab him.
Grab him.
Oh
So
yeah,
cute. Little turn around.
it's a good dog.
Oh, come here.
We haven't heard anything from Liam. Liam is.
Oh yeah,
Liam's not even showing us his
Can't
face
even see
anymore.
him.
Liam dyed his hair, and we can all tell, but he's not telling us.
That's the second time that Liam has had hair problems.
He's probably not even there.
That's not the second time. Let me tell you about Arizona.
Liam's hiding.
Jody and maybe Matt, I don't know if you noticed Liam's hair, but it was awful.
You gotta check out this guy's snaggletooth.
Oh my god, he's so cute.
Oh.
What's
I
his
should go
name?
get my chickens.
Jack.
Hey, buddy.
So Ben, how much do you crop out and not?
Of this? This is all in. It's just getting uploaded as is.
Good. I'm glad about that.
Wine and
What's your pup's name?
Well, I don't care.
Daisy.
Daisy.
She looks a bit like a junkyard dog. She's actually really sweet.
In a cute way.
She's
She's
scruffy.
Scruffly.
Yeah,
Those are the best. Those are the best dogs.
we love her.
Well, Liam's not answering, so that's rude, but it's okay.
Now you've made me miss my
How do
dog.
we make up for our missed Oregon trip? So when do we do it? The fall, or it's going to be next year? What's the vote? What should we do?
This
I would say
isn't good enough, Matt. What we're doing
as
right now.
soon as possible.
Our 5 days in Oregon versus the 1 hour Zoom call?
I'm so sad. Like,
Think of it. This cost you nothing, Matt. This cost you nothing.
Yeah.
there were so many hugs last year.
But there weren't enough beers.
Not allowed to hug anymore.
I mean, there weren't enough beers on this call.
Well, when things start to come back to normal, we'll have to figure out when we make the Oregon trip. So I'm pushing for the fall.
Yeah, well,
Thanks, Matt, for thinking of it.
That all depends on Trump.
yeah. That all
Should we get on to that subject? I don't think so.
Okay, I guess we'll wrap
Yeah,
it up with the
positive.
last question. Where are we going to be next Earth Month?
Oh, wow.
It's a good question.
Ooh.
India.
No, not
Matt, what do you think?
not physically.
Philosophically.
Where is the
Oh.
organization going to be in a year's time?
Oh.
Earth Day 2021.
That's for Matt.
Well, I do all the talking, so I'm actually going to pass that to Stephanie.
What?
Anyone?
Everybody can talk.
Anyone.
Do you mean people?
anyone. Where do you see
do you
this
mean
going?
people or
Anybody,
organizations?
Joe. I mean, the people have look from last year to this year in terms of the growth, but like Joe or Stephanie or Gabby, I think, could chime in. Even Cassandra. Cassandra was the one holding down the fort while we were all in Colorado. Remember?
I think we'll have a whole other.
I actually started right after.
My prediction.
We started right after. So didn't we leave somebody behind?
We left the interns behind.
Oh, that's right, the interns.
They did a pretty good job. Actually.
I say we will be all over the world.
Are we not
Yeah.
already?
I was gonna say we're
Well,
gonna have
yeah,
another branch
because
somewhere.
we're all going to be
And
here in Montreal.
branch?
and
Yeah.
All the other people are going to be where.
What did Gabby say?
Gabby?
What did you think?
I think we'll have another branch somewhere. I don't know. I'm thinking like either the UK because we're growing stuff there, or
We're trying to get ourselves charitable status in Canada. I think we could expand across Canada. That'd be great. I like
Actually,
the idea
the
too.
law firm asked about our satellite office in Colorado, FYI.
Oh, right. See, maybe in Colorado. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be another
Okay.
office.
I can answer. Sorry. Now I thought about it. We are going to have our own nurseries across the US and potentially Canada, so we can give seedlings to everyone.
You're talking
And a
about,
cottage up north.
yeah, talking
me
about
copying.
We're going to live in the woods and work in the woods.
I'm very happy to plant
I
some
like that.
and start a nursery. I would love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
I would definitely take ownership on nursery.
I would totally love to do that.
Yeah, that's the plan.
It's a cool plan.
Good job, Steph. Thanks,
No
Matt.
problem. I thought of it all on myself.
Thanks, Matt, for putting Steph on that. Because
Ben, what do you think? Where are we going to be in 2021 Earth Day?
Well, it's definitely going to be more people. I can tell you that.
I think so too.
Yeah, probably.
But not too many more people.
No, thanks, Steph.
I want to keep.
You're awesome.
Because I feel like more people is more friends.
Yes.
But like, it's also kind of like a cool club. Like, we're all really cool.
Steph, if I remember correctly, you were kind of upset when I started because that means it went to like 6 people.
I know, but I think that Steph is perfect because she's as loyal as Matt is, and everyone is in the same sense. But you're just like, this is what we do, and this is how we're going to do it.
Tav's a bit drunk. I love you, Tav.
No,
Loves 2 glasses deep.
I'm the same when I'm drunk and when I'm not.
When she's at 5, she starts whistling.
Don't get me started.
Okay, Liam's back. Take off your hat, Liam.
Oh, yeah.
Liam dyed his hair.
It's temporary.
Liam missed all the blonde people in the office, so he decided to join us.
You look great.
I dyed my hair too. I got all the grays out.
Looks great, Leslie.
You know, because I am the oldest person here, so you better have some empathy for me.
Leslie, you didn't look like the oldest.
You don't.
Look at all those grays. They're gone. I washed those grays right out of my hair.
Leslie, you're amazing. And I wish I was with all of you, and I think about our Christmas party, and I know not all of you were there, but a lot of you were, and that was like the best night ever.
Best thing ever. I wasn't quite there.
I got sick. That wasn't fun, but it was really great, and it makes me sad to see all of you and that I can't hug you.
Can we do an outdoor barbecue here at my house? As long as we stay.
They'll call the cops on us for sure.
But I would love to do that.
Asthma.
Can you guys do cheers right now? Can everyone? Ben?
Let's do cheers.
Ben, let's all do cheers. Everybody.
Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Month,
Happy Earth
everybody.
Day.